So ever since Adidas decided to flood the market with Yeezys, dropping 30 pairs in a single month, the prices for a lot of them have drastically dropped. Some pairs were selling for up to $1,000 are now under retail. And considering Adidas doesn't plan to use Yeezy designs after they sell off the existing pairs, these could become a lot more expensive in the near future. With that in mind, each placement gets more and more likely to raise in price as the list goes on. So here's the top 10 best Yeezys under retail. Coming in at number 10, the Yeezy Quantum. Now this placement goes for pretty much every single colorway of the Yeezy Quantum. They're pretty much all very under retail. But my personal favorite also happens to be one of my latest pickups, and that's the Miss Slate colorway. It's crazy because I bought a pair of these things when Adidas dropped them just a couple weeks ago, and I paid that retail price of £250 here in the UK, or also $250 out in the US. And when I saw that the resale price on this pair was literally $140, I decided to just send my Adidas pair back and buy that one. So I just instantly saved myself £100 on this pair of shoes. Now it is definitely not the most hyped Yeezy model out there, considering every single colorway does go under retail price, but it is a solid sneaker. It's got full length boots, so it's actually pretty comfortable. It's very well made with decent materials, and I personally really like the design. So yeah, Yeezy Quantum, definitely one of my favorite steals out there right now. Alright, coming in at number 9 is the Yeezy 350 Compact Slate Onyx. Now these are probably my least favorite Yeezy visually, but one thing you cannot kick about this pair of shoes is how comfortable they are. It is somehow even more comfortable than a regular pair of Yeezy 350s, which is known for how comfortable it is. And what they did to achieve that comfortability on this pair of shoes is essentially change the upper to be incredibly stretchy and also just add a super soft cushion pillow on the top. And right now, you can grab a pair of these things for about $150 or less, which considering the retail price of these is $230, it's pretty insane. Now, the Slate Onyx is the latest colorway to release alongside the Bone colorway, so kind of both of them are solid options. And what I actually thought was pretty surprising when looking up the prices for different colorways of this sneaker is not all of them are going under retail. In fact, some colorways are reselling for a somewhat decent amount. So considering these two latest colorways are actually some of the best that exist on this model, I can't see that these things are gonna stay this cheap for that much longer. Coming in at number 8 is the Yeezy 380 Pyrite. And this is my absolute favorite under the radar Yeezy 380 colorway. In fact, I actually think that this is the most recent colorway of the 380 to release, and it was all the way back in 2021. So Yeezy kind of just put the 380s on ice and stopped producing them. Either way, you can grab a pair of these things for anywhere between $150 and $180. Now that price does tend to fluctuate a lot because I imagine that brand new pairs of these things are kind of running out at this point. But yeah, it's a really nice colorway and actually one of the best that you can find on the 380. I mean, it's not like you have a massive selection considering that some colorways look like something that would come out of your nose. I wear my 380s a ton. I often wear them to the gym. It's a great pair of shoes to work out in. Obviously, it also has full length boost and is insanely comfortable. Definitely worth checking out some of the other colorways as well because there are a decent amount of them that are under retail. Alright, in at number 7 is the Yeezy MNVN Laceless. Now this is actually one of the weirdest Yeezy models out there because it's literally a model that already exists, however they just decided to re-release it without laces. But I really like it. It's also clearly Kanye West's favorite model considering there's 4 different versions of the Yeezy 700. Now you could buy a pair of these things for around $200 depending on your price. It's definitely worth mentioning that this one's going to be a little bit harder to find under retail. I got mine when they originally released last year and I've been loving them ever since. They're incredibly comfortable, and because they don't have laces, they're literally just a slip-on and go pair of shoes. And the white and black colors on this futuristic looking silhouette really give it stormtrooper vibes. It is also important to mention that the price of these things has been slowly creeping up ever since they originally launched, so I can't see these things being under retail forever. Alright, in at number 6 is the Yeezy 500 High Tactical Boot. This one is probably going to go down as one of the last new Yeezy creations. I mean, we really didn't think that we were going to get any brand new models with these latest restocks. It was pretty much always just going to be older pairs that they're just bringing back. But obviously they surprised a lot of us by releasing this pair, and it's also a pair of shoes that has been in the works for a very long time. We saw Kanye West leak and wear a lot of the earlier samples, so it's definitely really cool to see these things get an actual retail release. Now the big caveat is that they do retail for a whopping $300, which I think is definitely a bit overpriced. So naturally I think it's very good that they are now under retail. Depending on your size, you can find these things for around $250. It's not a massive decrease, but again, considering that this is the only pair of these shoes that exist in terms of this Yeezy model, I can definitely see this pair becoming more expensive in the future. So if this was a sneaker that you were contemplating buying, I definitely think that now's the best time. It's a solid boot both visually and practically. There is something pretty funny and kind of a gimmick, which is the fire starting laces, just because I cannot see anybody who actually wears this pair of shoes utilize them in the way that would make sense, but you never know. All right, coming in at number 5 is the Yeezy 700 Utility Black. Man, this was a $500 to $600 sneaker just a couple months ago, and now you can get them under retail price, which is insane. For these restocked, I remember hearing so many people say that how much they wanted this pair of shoes to come back. It was the one Yeezy that hadn't had a restock in a very long time, ever since it originally released. Well, they did, and obviously produced a ton of pairs. So now it's probably the perfect time to pick these things up. It's a great, super versatile colorway on one of my favorite Yeezy models of all time. Also, given that it's a Yeezy 700 V1, it's got really decent materials like suedes and leathers. Now you can grab a pair of these things anywhere between $200 and $250 depending on your size, which considering these retail for $300, it's a pretty solid steal there. And yeah, these were once a $500 sneaker, so I don't see why they couldn't get back up to that price in the near future, especially if Yeezys are no longer being made and released. Coming in at number 4 is the Yeezy 700 V3. Now, I will preface this with the fact that this one is actually going to be pretty tough to find under retail, but some sizes are and others are just a bit above retail. I thought I had to add this pair to the list because it's one of my favorite Yeezy sneakers of all time, and it's also a very iconic pair of shoes. It's the very first colorway of the Yeezy 700 V3 model, which again, when it originally launched, was extremely limited and used to cost like $700 or $800. They did have a restock last year in 2022 on Yeezy Day, and that's when the price dropped, and it's been creeping up, kind of recovering, and obviously now that they've restocked them again, it's dropped back down. So I think the likelihood of these being more expensive in the future is pretty high, and they're probably never coming back again. Now, this is not the only colorway that's retail or less. The Copper Fade one is also under retail. Now, the Copper Fade is not the worst colorway on the 700 V3 model, but it's certainly not my favorite. So if you do like the Copper Fade colorway, it's a solid sneaker and a good option. The Azael is an absolute banger. In fact, when they restocked on this latest drop last month, I doubled up because I knew future me is going to love a crispy pair of these things. Before we get into the top 3, let me run through a couple honorable mentions. In fact, we got 3 honorable mentions. First one is the Yeezy 350 Carbon Beluga. Now, this is the 4th iteration of the Beluga colorway on the Yeezy 350, so yeah, they are really utilizing this colorway as much as possible. But it also happens to be like one of the nicest, bizarrely enough. I always thought that I would prefer the original one, and definitely that one is more iconic. This one just kind of seems a little bit easier to rock with the colors because the upper is a lot darker and you've got that orange neon stripe. I just find them a lot more wearable. Another one is the Yeezy 350 Granite, another really solid colorway. This one is probably one of the most wearable out of these honorable mentions. Last honorable mention is the Yeezy 450 Resin colorway. There are some other colorways of the Yeezy 450 that are under retail, but I think the one that's the easiest to find under retail is, yeah, mainly the Resin pair. Honorable mentions out of the way, and this next one is pretty crazy. It's the Yeezy 950 Pyrite Black. That's right, and I never thought I would see the day that these things come back, much less for under retail. And what's even crazier is that somehow the identical 2015 version is still selling for up to $2,000. So yeah, it's definitely wild that you can pick yourself up a pair of 950s for anywhere between $400 and $450. Now that does still sound pretty expensive, but keep in mind that these things do retail for $600. Now the main reason that this pair is so high up on the list is because they didn't just restock a ton of pairs like they did with a lot of others. This was actually a pretty limited release. These 950s only dropped out in the US. And I mean, it's the only colorway of this model that is now selling for under retail. The rest are all selling for thousands. The probability of this pair becoming more expensive is very high. It's definitely not really a sneaker that Yeezy brand is usually known for. It's definitely more in the category of an actual boot. But I really like the look of these things. In fact, as soon as I saw the price, I went out and ordered myself a pair. So hopefully they come in soon so I can get to wearing them for this winter. Coming in at number 2 is the Yeezy 350 V2 Static. This one is probably the most surprising under retail picks for me. For one, it's a Yeezy 350, the most popular Yeezy model. 2, this is a super popular colorway that was reselling for up to $500. And when they released and kind of hung around on the app for a little bit, I was super surprised. Now, all of that is to say that you can find a pair of these things for anywhere between about $190 and $200. One of my favorite colorways of the Yeezy 350, obviously it's super simple and incredibly wearable. It's also the first Yeezy 350 to feature the translucent stripe that goes across the side, and that's probably a big reason to why it was so incredibly popular before. But coming in at number 1 is the Yeezy 700 V2 Static. Yes guys, one of my favorite sneakers of all time is now under retail. What a time to be alive. Again, this is another Yeezy that was almost $1,000 before it restocked. You can now find a pair of these for about $250, and again, these retail for $300. Obviously, as soon as these dropped, I bought a pair. Now, what I've been wearing is the pretty much identical Yeezy 700 V2 Cream, and it is literally one of my most worn Yeezys ever. The Yeezy 700 model, specifically the V1 and the V2, is pretty much just a timeless design. It's lightweight, super comfortable with full-length boost, and somewhat premium materials. I just find myself always wanting to throw this pair of shoes on. It is just such an easy wear, and it goes with so many different outfits. So yeah, if this was a pair that you were considering, now is a great time to pick these things up. But there you have it guys, drop your thoughts down in the comment section, and if you like this top 10 under retail list, well, you'll probably like the one I did for the Jordan 1s or the Dunks.